Imagine for a moment, your entire world is your village. Your life depends on a handful of things going right. The harvest, your own health, the health of your animals. Then one morning, you find your cow is sick. She's not giving milk. For you, this is much more than an inconvenience. It's a catastrophe. Your family's survival could hang in the balance. You've gone to the priest, you've prayed, but fear is a powerful thing. You do something else, something your grandmother taught you, something whispered about in the village. This is where the real magic of the Middle Ages begins. Forget the stories of wizards in high towers and dragons in deep caves. For ordinary people, magic was a tool. It was a shield. It was a desperate attempt to grab some control in a world where you had almost none. Today we're exploring the folk magic that people actually use to protect their homes, their families, and their livelihoods. We'll look at the strange marks they carved into their homes to ward off evil spirits. We'll uncover the secrets of bizarre witch bottles buried under hearths for centuries. And we'll meet the local cunning folk, the everyday practitioners who were the closest thing most people had to a doctor and a detective, all rolled into one. This is the story of how everyday people tried to shape their own destiny using a language of symbols, charms, and rituals that is still being rediscovered today. Welcome to Folks of Yore. If you like hearing about the lives of ordinary people from history, then please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Let's begin. So where do we find this lost language of magic? We find it carved into the very bones of their homes. Look closely at a surviving medieval house. Look at the old timber beams above a fireplace or the stones around a doorway. You might find something strange, a pattern of overlapping circles like a flower. This is a daisy wheel. It was a spiritual trap. The design has no beginning and no end. And the belief was that any evil spirit that came near would be caught in the endless line, unable to escape. People carved other symbols too, interlocking V-shapes for Virgo Virginium, an appeal to the Virgin Mary, or scorch marks deliberately burned into the wood with a candle, a kind of ritual purification by fire. These marks are almost always found at openings, doorways, windows, chimneys, the weak points of the house where evil and the cold draft could get in. But sometimes a carved symbol wasn't enough. If you believed you were the target of a specific curse, you needed something stronger, a more aggressive defense. This is where you might use a witch bottle. Archaeologists have found these buried under hearths and doorways for centuries. You would take a ceramic jug, often a specific kind called a Bellarmine jug, which had a bearded face on it. Inside you would place sharp things, bent nails, pins, thorns. You would add some of your own hair and fingernails, and finally you would add your own urine. It was a form of magical revenge. The urine was the link to you. The sharp objects were the weapon. By burying the bottle, the belief was that the witch who cursed you would feel an unbearable stabbing pain, forcing them to break the spell. Protection wasn't just for the house, it was personal. A common charm was a hagstone, just a simple stone with a natural hole worn through it. You might hang one over your bed to stop nightmares, or in a stable to protect your horses from being ridden to exhaustion at night by witches. Even money could be magic. A bent coin, or one with a hole drilled in it, was no longer just currency. It was a personal token of good luck, carried in a pocket or worn around the neck. A small secret shield against the dangers of the world. But magic was not only about building shields. It was also a way to reach out and try to shape your own future. It worked with the world, seeking to influence health, find love, and even deliver justice. If you were sick, you had few options, but folk magic offered many. There were spoken charms for almost anything. A charm for a toothache might involve driving a nail into an oak tree while reciting a verse, transferring the pain from your body into the unfeeling wood. Healing wasn't just about herbs, though they were used. It was about the ritual, the words, and the power they carried. This belief ran deep. To the medieval mind, words were not just sounds, they were forces in their own right. This gave immense power to names, especially the true names of things. To know the true name of a spirit, or even a disease, was to have control over it. This is why charms had to be recited perfectly. A single wrong word could make the spell useless, or worse, dangerous. The most potent words were often sacred ones, borrowed from the church. The Latin names of God, Jesus, or powerful angels like Michael were woven into charms for everything from stopping bleeding to protecting against thieves. And of course, people use magic to find love. A young woman might tie a series of knots in a cord, each knot representing a part of a binding spell to capture someone's affection. Some love charms were even more intense, calling for a lock of hair, a fingernail clipping, or a drop of blood to be secretly baked into a cake and fed to the object of your desire. What if something was stolen? The village had no police force, so you might turn to divination. A common method was the sieve and the shears. Two people would balance a sieve on the points of a pair of shears. They would recite the names of everyone suspected, and it was believed that when the name of the true thief was spoken, the sieve would mysteriously turn and fall. This connection ran deep into the earth itself. There were rituals for blessing the fields and for wassailing the apple trees in the dead of winter, waking them up to ensure a good harvest. And perhaps most beautifully, there was the tradition of telling the bees. If a beekeeper died, a family member had to go to the hives, knock gently, and whisper the news. If they failed to tell the bees, it was believed the bees would leave, or stop making honey, or even die themselves. It shows a world where people did not see themselves as separate from nature, but as part of a living, breathing, and magical whole. But what if your problem was too big? What if you didn't know the right words, or didn't have the courage to act alone? You wouldn't go to a wizard, you would go to the local cunning man or wise woman. These were the specialists, the local experts in the supernatural, who inherited their knowledge through family lines or long apprenticeships. They charged a fee for their services, just like a blacksmith or a carpenter. You could hire them to find your stolen silver with a scrying glass, to give you a charm to heal your sick child, or to identify the person who was secretly cursing your livestock. And this is a vital point. A cunning person was not a witch. In fact, they were seen as the remedy for witchcraft. A witch was a criminal, someone who used magic to harm and to curse. A cunning person was the detective and the doctor you hired to solve the problem. It was a dangerous line to walk. Their knowledge of charms and curses meant they were always under suspicion from church authorities. Their magic was useful, but it was unsanctioned. So this was the real magic of the Middle Ages. It wasn't about power fantasies, it was about survival. It was the desperate hope of a parent carving a symbol to protect a child. The quiet ritual of a farmer trying to save his livestock, the search for answers and justice in a world that offered very little of either. These beliefs show us a world brimming with unseen forces, but they also show us a people who refuse to be passive victims. They fought back with everything they had, their faith, their traditions, and their own secret language of magic, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, this is Folks of Yore, and if you enjoyed this video on the real magic of the Middle Ages, leave a comment. Tell us what you think. What would you like us to cover next? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. See you next time.